Hello, everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of Against All Odds. And as I say at the beginning of every podcast, this is purely selfish reason why I record these episodes, because I get to speak to inspiring people. And today I've got one hell of a guest for you, Nikki Stock. Welcome to the show, my lovely. How are you?
I'm really good, Amy. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I'm looking forward to talking to you.
So now Nikki is, I've never heard of this before, but we just spoke before the podcast. So what is your job title?
Well, I'm a strategist and a mentor and a life architect.
Life architect. I love that. That just screams like empowerment and life design. So that's what you're all about, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think, we owe it to ourselves to create a life that we love. And there's so many of us living a default life. Just doing, following the crowd one step, because society dictates that we do that, but we don't do.
That's it. It's like living on autopilot, isn't it, all the time? Yeah. But I always say to people, when you kind of do a job that you do, there's always a massive why that's led you to the place that you are now.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a very inspiring story with a lot of heartache and unexpected things happening. So let's talk about that first. Tell me where this all started for you, because it was quite a few years back, wasn't it?
Yeah, so if we roll back, let's go back 14 years to start. Yeah. My life partner was also my business partner, and we had a huge business. We were the UK distributor for a sun care brand, which you can still see in Boots and Tesco's if you go in. We were the UK distributor for Banana Boat Sun Care. And we took that from a £75,000 turnover to 6.9 million.
Wow.
So we had a massive business.
Yeah.
Until we didn't. Because one day they sold the brand to somebody else. And overnight we literally lost everything. Because, although you always say don't have your eggs in one basket, we could only have our eggs in that one basket. It was a full-time business. We were managing all the major multiples: Tesco's, Boots, Asda, Sainsbury's, World Duty Free, John Lewis. They were all our clients, so we couldn't have any other clients. So that was about 14 years ago. And after the shock of that, my partner bought a business out of administration. He thought, well, let's do something different. So he bought a pet food business out of administration, wholesalers. And the plan was we'd turn it round and make it into a mini Pets at Home. And then once on that, we'd have 4 or 5, and that was going to be our retirement project. And we're bowling along quite nicely. We'd been doing it for about 6 months. And my partner went into hospital for surgery on his shoulder. He'd had a skiing accident. And when he was lying in his hospital bed after the surgery, I was sort of looking at him and I thought, got a lump on your neck, just above where they'd done the shoulder surgery. And I said to him, you've got a lump on your neck. And he said, well, it must be from the surgery. And I said, well, no, it can't be, because it's in the wrong place. Pointed it out to the doctor, and he said, yeah, we're going to get that looked at for you. And that's the start of the horror that the following year brought us. So he was sent for some tests, and that Christmas was horrible because we had all the family here and the kids were here, and we were just sitting thinking, we don't know what this is. We don't know what it is, but you kind of have a bad feeling. And in the January, he was diagnosed with a very rare and incurable blood cancer called mantle cell lymphoma.
Wow.
And there's only 5,000 cases in the world at any one time.
Right.
So it's not one of those, it's not the nice, not that there's any nice lymphoma, but on the list of lymphomas you don't want to get, that's right up there with the one you don't want.
Right, okay.
So that was the
massive shock, yeah.
Massive. And he had no clue. He was just on another planet after that. He just couldn't comprehend any of it. And then just to make it worse, in the February, my mum was diagnosed with womb cancer.
Wow. Okay.
She was in her 70s at the time. And then in the March, my dad went mad, properly mad, with trauma onset psychosis.
Right.
So he would phone me up and say, the house smells of lavender, or the string coming through the ceiling, or I don't know, you came and washed all the windows yesterday. So it was all that mad, utter madness. And I was in that position where I was looking after 3 ill people. Bearing in mind, I live in Cambridge and my parents were in Essex. And I had 2 teenage kids. And I had a business that we just bought out of administration.
You had it all going on there, mate, didn't you?
Had it all going on. And the worst day of my life was May the 20-something, 26th, I think it was. And I did 3 hospitals in 3 counties in one day.
Wow. That must have took its toll.
Massively. I mean, I used to drop him off his platelets or his whatever he was going in for. And then I'd go and see my mum and my dad and sort them out. And then I'd come back and I'd pick him up and he'd always feel rubbish afterwards. So I'd get him home, put him to bed. And there's a field behind my house, like a farmer's field. And I would just like go and stand in the middle of the field and scream, because that's all I could do. I couldn't show it at home, couldn't show it to the kids, cried in front of the kids, never cried in front of him, just took it out of the house and screamed, and then went back home and got on with it.
So he's like having to be strong for everybody else.
Yeah, and I did, and I was for a really long time. For a whole year, I was just doing that, and you know, we got into a point where he was in a really good remission, 90% remission, and we were thinking, oh, okay, you know, maybe it's not going to pan out as badly. But we were trying to get to a point where he would have a stem cell transplant.
Right. Okay.
And they couldn't get enough of his own stem cells. His bone marrow was shot to pieces, you know, because his chemo wasn't just, I'm not being derogatory about people who go in to have chemo for a day and come home, but literally he'd go in for chemo and they would give him an infusion for 72 hours.
Right.
3 days of continuous toxic stuff being pumped into his body.
Yeah.
You know, there's no wonder that his bone marrow couldn't produce any decent bone marrow. So we had to go on a donor on the acting, you know, wait for a donor to come through. So we went on holiday. We went on holiday in the December, and it was amazing. We went skiing, took the kids. His best friends turned up and surprised us. Really, really magical holiday, except I was really struggling. You know, I was really tired. I was really struggling to ski. His friend said, is Nikki okay? And Cole's going, oh, she's fine. She's everyone used to say, Nikki's fine. She's just tired.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And I think with, you know, for anybody's listening, it's always the carer that gets overlooked. They're so focusing on the person who's got the illness. They never look at the carer.
Do you know what, that's true, because you know, it's like if you're looking after somebody, everybody normally asks about them, but they forget to say, well, how are you doing?
Yeah,
if you got time to look after yourself, that is you're right, it's regularly overlooked.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cursory. They don't actually really mean it, you know, because they're still focusing on the person who's ill.
Yeah.
And then what happened was, in the January, he fell out of remission spectacularly. I mean, literally, I heard it on his chest, and I phoned his consultant and I said, I think it's back. And the consultant said, no way, absolutely no way would it be back that quickly. And I thought, do you know what? I just know it is. I can hear it.
Yeah.
I said, do me a favor, do a scan just so that I can sleep tonight, because I'm still not sleeping. So he went in and had a scan, and the next day we got the call, and it was like, back to square one, cancer's back, start the treatment again, off we go. And you know, like you're on that hamster wheel. So just a hamster wheel. It's a hamster wheel of hospitals. And I dropped him off on Valentine's Day, 2012. And as I was leaving the hospital, one of the senior nurses stopped me, because I had a really good relationship with them, because obviously we were there all the time. And she said to me, you're not well. And I said, I'm fine. She said, no, you're not. You're not, your lips are going blue. There's something going on with you. You need to go today. And I was like, oh, I can't go today. And she, just go, please go. So I went, and luckily, and you know, to this day, whoever this guy was, I didn't see my GP. I saw So the locum looked at me as me.
Yeah. Didn't, yeah, I get that. Didn't look at everything
Didn't
you've got.
look at Nikki,
Yeah.
carer of cancer patient, looked at Nikki, 40-something-year-old woman, presenting with all these symptoms. So he did a really thorough workup. And before I knew where I was, I went back into his office having just had an ECG. And he's on the phone, phoning for an ambulance. He's going, right, we need an ambulance, la, la, la. And I'm like, you're really busy, I'll come back.
Right.
And he's like, no.
That's for you.
Right,
okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so I ended up in the local A&E, and I kind of knew things were getting bad because they wheeled me down for a chest x-ray. And you know, when you stand and have your chest x-ray, so I'm standing there and there's one person looking at the screen, and then as I'm looking over, there's another person, and then there's another person, and then there's all four of them all looking at my chest x-ray and shaking their heads. And I was thinking, that doesn't look good. And then I started to get worse, and I was admitted, put onto a respiratory ward. They had no idea what I had. And by Friday, I was so poorly. I hadn't seen my partner by then. He wasn't able to come and see me because he was too ill.
Yeah.
He was neutropenic, which means he can't be around sick people. He couldn't come into the hospital. So my son came to see me. I don't think my daughter came, and my mum and some friends. And then on the Friday, a really good friend of mine who just happens to be the resuscitation officer at the hospital took one look at me and pushed the button. And before I knew where I was, she's hacking down the corridor with a friend of hers, taking me to ITU.
Right.
They knocked me out. They just ventilated me there and then. And then it just got worse and worse and worse. So I was then, on the Sunday night, they phoned my partner and said, we need to move her tonight, but we need your consent, because if we don't move her, she's definitely going to die. If we do move her, she might not survive the journey, but we've got to move her because it's the only chance she's got to survive.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So they moved me to Papworth Hospital, and they put me on something that they actually used for all the ECMO, for all the COVID patients. But at the time, there weren't that many ECMO machines in the UK. I was just lucky that I lived on top of one of them. So they put me on something called ECMO, which is lung bypass.
Right. Okay.
So I was in a medically induced coma. I had 17 lines of stuff going into me. My lungs were bypassed, and they just waited and waited.
How long was you in a coma for?
2 weeks.
Wow.
On the third night, or the second night I was in the coma, they called Colin and said he needed to take the children in first thing in the morning because I wasn't going to survive the next 24 hours. So the children came and said goodbye to me. And my mum and my dad and everybody else came and said goodbye to me. But I have to say, if you're ever in a coma, you don't need to go and say goodbye to them, because I can tell you now, I don't remember it. I didn't.
You couldn't hear anything.
So don't bother going and saying goodbye. You can't hear a thing. So yeah, and then they just kept saying to him, oh, she's hanging on. She's hanging on. She's hanging on. And it got to the 2-week mark, and they basically said, well, we can try taking her off the machine. If she comes out of it, she won't be able to walk, talk. We don't know how much brain damage has been done, but you've got to prepare yourself that if we lift her out of this, you might not get back the person you had before.
Right. Okay.
So he had to make that decision.
Right.
And he was like, well, you've got to get her out of it, because he by this point he stopped having his chemotherapy because he needed to look after the kids. So he was having a different chemo. So he was really ill, and he said, look, you've got to get her out of it. So they lifted the sedation, and the story goes that, obviously he's over my bed and sobbing. And in a really raspy voice, I said to him, what the hell are you doing here? You should be having your chemo. So
You're still nagging at him. You woke up and you nagged at him, right?
yeah. And he just said to the consultant, "Oh, she's fine."
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't fine. I was in hospital for 6 weeks in total.
Yeah.
I went from critical care to intensive care to high dependency to, I can't tell you how many hospital wards I did and how many doctors. And I mean, I must have had over 100, 150 people look after me during that 6-week period. Physiotherapists, ward orderlies, people coming to wash me, everything.
Right.
So I came out of hospital 6 weeks later, came out just in time for my son's birthday. And then my partner died 10 weeks after I came out of hospital.
When I read your story, mate, I just thought, how do you even begin to process all of that? Because not only had you got the kind of frightening part of your health at that point, and then your husband passing away as well, you had no time to process that before that happened.
And actually we weren't married, which made it even worse.
Right.
So, okay. If anyone's listening, do not believe that if you are in a common law relationship, you have any rights. You have no rights.
Right.
Actually, you have no rights. No.
But you had that on top of it as well.
No ring, no rights. I didn't get his pension. I got a refund of his additional voluntary contributions, but for his private pensions, I didn't get them because we weren't married.
That's absolutely shocking.
Some pension schemes are set up differently, but this one, we weren't married. I didn't get it. The kids got £500 a year until they were 18. That was it. Mm. If we'd have been married, I probably wouldn't have needed to work any longer.
Right. Okay.
So
interesting enough, when all that happened, did you go, right, I've got to be that strong person again for the kids?
I think I just went into complete and utter. I didn't process what happened until much later. So when they said, "Oh, do you want counselling? Do you want?" I'm like, no, I'm fine. No, and it was like, okay. And I sat in this kitchen and I said to the kids, "That's it. I'm not mothering you anymore." I hadn't mothered them for a year anyway because I was looking after their dad and everything else. So they were literally looking after themselves. I said, "We're going to have a notebook on the bar and we're going to treat the house like a house share, and you can have friends to stay, but as long as I know who's staying, put it in the the diary. This is how it's going to work. Dan, you're going to have to come and work with me at the warehouse because I can't do it all on my own. So on a Saturday, no more going out with your friends on a Saturday. You're coming and working with me. Lucy, you're going to be responsible for cooking 2 nights a week." And we just went into this kind of, we just said, like, we're the 3 musketeers and we're going to through it. And so for a year, I was literally, because I only weighed 5.5 stone as well when I came out of hospital. So I was having to put weight on as well. So for a year, it was literally put weight on, go to the business. I had 6 or 7 staff at the time, so I was responsible for 7 families' income as well, and just get it to the point where it was a viable business. And I think that took me over a year, maybe a year and a half, and I didn't really deal with what had happened at all. Because I couldn't. And then I woke up one day and I looked at the figures. I went saw the account, I looked at the figures and I thought, oh, this is actually quite a good business now and it's profitable. I wonder if anyone will buy it off me, because I hated it. And I phoned up one of my suppliers and I said, "Oh, do you want to buy my business?" And he said, "Yes, I do." So I said, "Oh, great." And he said, "How much do you want for it?" And I was like, I have no idea. I mean, I think I'd have given it away. If he'd have just said to me, "I'm not going to give you anything for it, but can I have it?" I'd have probably given it away, because by then
you'd had enough.
I was done.
Yeah.
I was properly done. Anyway, we did the deal very, very quickly, about 6 weeks, got it sold. Happiest day of my life was handing those keys over. Got back here, and that's when I hit the wall.
Yeah, it was going to get you at some point, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I just woke up one day, kids went to school, and I started shaking uncontrollably, and I couldn't stop crying. And I ran barefoot through the village to a lady who was in my book club, who was also worked for the Samaritans. And I was literally banging on her door, go, oh. And she wasn't there. She was in prison doing her work in the prison. And her husband was like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. And he's looking at this woman who's like half in her pajamas, barefoot, has run quite a way, a good 10-minute run through the village.
Yeah.
Sobbing, going, I need to speak to her. And anyway, he sort of took me in and then brought me home and phoned her and said, look, you need to come. Nikki really needs you. So she came around and spoke to me for about 3 or 4 hours. And then she's like, you need to go and get some proper help.
Yeah.
At that point, I didn't go to my GP. I went back to the hospital and I said, I think I've got PTSD or something because I'm not coping.
Yeah.
And they found me. The first person I found myself was not my type of counsellor. She had literally no empathy, and she would just keep saying, oh, and how did that make you feel? I was like,
yeah, not the best, no.
And it was like, how the hell do you think it made me feel? So I don't know, spent quite a bit of money with her, and I used to go there hating her before I even got there. I was like, why am I even going here? You're not helping, you're just winding me up. And then I went back, and the nurse that I was working with said, actually, I think I know you, who you need. And she found me this other counsellor who, our first session was supposed to be an hour and a half, and I was there 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, she put a pen down. She said, look, she said, I'm not even supposed to say this. She said, but how are you even upright?
Yeah.
How are you even functioning?
Yeah.
But I'm here. I'm not, am I? That's why I'm here.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like, just a heartbreaking journey. Now, with your health, do you look back now and go, I'm so grateful, like I'm living, I found my purpose with everything that you're doing now? Yeah.
I mean, like when people say, you know, I suppose I'm a little intolerant now with people as well. But, you know, I will say that every day I wake up breathing is a good day.
It's a good day.
That's it. When you've not been able to breathe, when I had pneumonia, so I was ill because I had pneumonia with multiple infections on top. So my lungs had completely stopped working and I was literally struggling to breathe. So every day I wake up breathing is a good day. You know, I don't have very many bad days because no day is ever going to be as bad as that day. Or the day my partner died.
Yeah.
So I don't take my health for granted, you know, and because of that, my life changed dramatically, because prior to all that happening, you know, we did have a very privileged lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know, we had the nice cars and the skiing holidays and all that. But it came at a price. You know, we worked really, really, really hard for that. And, you know, after he died, well, even before he died, in the 10 weeks before he died, he kept saying, right, when you're better and I've had my stem cell transplant, we're going to get married and we're going to change everything. And we're just going to dial it right down and have, you know, a different sort of balance. And we never did. So I felt that I owed it to him and myself to change things. And that's why I do what I do now, which is, I did a couple of things in between. I did a bit of marketing and I had a women's networking business, which was great because that got me into the mentoring.
Yeah.
People asked me to mentor them. So I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. So when, you know, when people look for a coach and they say, what qualifications have you got? Absolutely none. Just
you've got all the life experiences though. And I honestly believe that matters more than qualifications.
Yeah, 30 years lived experience, 2 multi-6-figure businesses under my belt, you know, awards left, right and centre. So I've got the t-shirt. But now it's all about helping. I don't want anyone ever to be where I was, like completely burnt out, crashing into the walls. So yeah, I teach people that they can have a business, a profitable business, a sustainable business, but it has to work around the life they live. It can't be the other way around.
Absolutely. And I believe that society has lost that.
Absolutely.
You agree? Yeah. I think it's now considered normal to be overworked, overwhelmed, burnt out.
All of those things.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then when, and also when you get people, I was talking to someone the other day and she's really in a bad way. And I said to her, what would your, you know, how would your life be different? What do you want? And she's so traumatized. She said, I don't even know what I want. I can't even work it out now.
Yeah. It's like they're,
much.
The amount of people I speak to that say the same thing, and it's like they've completely lost touch with who they are, what they enjoy. And if you say to somebody about what about doing self-care, and you can see them, because I was that person once where all of a sudden they take a step back because you can't do self-care because they view it as selfish.
Yeah,
that's a society thing as well, because we're all kind of, it's drilled into us to work hard, look after others. Everybody's forgot about themselves.
Yeah, and I think, you know, with women even more so. But when we do life architecture, we do this whole petrol gauge thing, and we have 4 sections. We have work, love, health, and play.
Yeah.
And we ask you to put where you are. And like, it's always the health one, which is all over the place. But when we talk about love, it isn't necessarily being in love. It's about loving your life, loving your business, loving your work.
Yeah.
Loving you. You know,
yes.
do you really love you as a person?
Yeah.
And we're not talking about work-life balance, because that's not it. We're talking about having it all sort of equal and just, you know, in the right place. And sometimes you're going to lean more, you know, you can't, when you're an entrepreneur, you cannot have your foot flat to the floor all the time. That is not sustainable. So it's having these, we call them Odyssey plans. We have 1, 3 and 5 year Odyssey plans that we try on for size and see whether we like them. And, you know, we treat our life like a product, like we're designing a product.
Yeah.
So we try it on for size, we prototype it, and we go, oh, actually, I think I want to do this. Actually, that didn't quite work. That's not giving me the balance or what I need out of it. So what am I going to change? How am I going to change it? And we kind of play around with it for a period of time until we get something that feels right and that we've got the resources for and just works with everything else and all the different roles we play in our lives.
Yeah, and it's funny how you said about women, because we juggle so many different things, don't we, as modern women? So you've got to be cleaning the house, doing the meals, having a career, looking after the kids, being a carer as well at some point. So I speak to a lot of women that are overwhelmed.
Yeah, and even the same-sex couples, men and same-sex male couples, same-sex female couples, there tends to be, doesn't always be that division of labour. There still seems to be one that seems to do more than the other. That's what I found. I could be wrong. Don't shoot me. Don't all start commenting on this. But you know, it's anybody, and even single people. You know, they could be looking after. They could be caring for elderly parents. You know, there's so many different lives that people live, but most people are living in a state of overwhelm
And autopilot, as we was talking before the podcast. Everybody's kind of living on autopilot by society's kind of rules that have been set, that are just can't wait till Friday till I finish. The goal's to get to the weekend, and then they start Monday again with the same goal that week.
Yeah,
and it's over and over and over again. It's everywhere, isn't it?
it is, and it's just really sad.
Yeah.
And, you know, I see so many people struggling, particularly with their mental health right now.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is also because, you know, since COVID, a lot of business went online, so people have become more isolated, more insular. They're not getting as much. They don't have that human connection anymore. So there's like so many facets to it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I feel, as somebody who's kind of had the disaster t-shirt and worn it a lot, I do feel that I'm in quite a good position to say, actually, you can do it a different way. It doesn't have to.
There is light at the end of the tunnel. It's possible to change your life.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So where did you start to change your life? You'd had the counselling.
Yeah, I had the counselling, and I thought, right, okay, what do I really want to do? And it was literally, I just wanted to, and it was women. It wasn't, although I have, funnily enough, ironically, I've had some male clients, but it was, I wanted to help women lean into their why. What is their why? You know, why they, and it is self-employed women, have their businesses, but show them the shortcuts, like all the mistakes that I've made, because, you know, it hasn't always been a bed of roses. I've had some really good stuff and I've had some really bad stuff go on in businesses. You know, anyone who says it doesn't happen, they're lying, you know. So, you know, I know the shortcuts. I know how to work smart, not hard. I know what marketing strategies work. I know lots of stuff. I just know stuff. It's just,
yeah.
So I thought, you know, if I can use that knowledge to help other people, that's what I want to do. But I also don't want to kill myself.
Yeah.
So I from very early on, I was like, I'm only going to work 4 days a week. That's what I'm going to do. You know, and occasionally that might change, but 9 times out of 10, it's 4 days a week. I was saying to somebody the other day, I write the word something in my diary on a Friday. I actually physically write the word something in my diary, so that if you rang me up and said to me, Nikki, can you come talk to me, or can you come and present at my event on Friday, the 12th of January, I can look in my diary and go, actually, no, do you know what, Amy, I've got something in the diary.
Do you know what? That's really good. I like that.
It's psychological. It can be anything.
Of course it is, yeah. Your brain's
that's something.
I know I've got something.
It's something, and it might be that I've just decided to go and meet a friend to have a coffee, or whatever. And it is a flexible something. If there's something that I really want to do, then of course I'm going to do it. But it's that whole psychologist. I don't work Fridays. That's my day for me.
That's it, because it's so easy to go, oh, do you know what? I'll just do it this once. And then that once could turn into a couple of times. And then before you know it, you're back up to 5, 6, 7 days.
Yeah. And it's also, the other thing is like the money mindset, you know, because obviously, as I said, I wasn't married, so I didn't get everything else. So then I had to think, how am I going to pay this mortgage off? So I had to work out how things were going to work so I could earn an income that was going to help me achieve what I wanted to achieve. But again, without killing myself. So it was finding a business that would tick all the boxes. So I did buy a franchise for a while, only because I thought I needed people around me.
Right, okay.
You know, because I was on my own, and my partner was, you know, we worked together. We didn't just live together, we lived and worked together. So we were in pockets 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
All of a sudden he's gone. And after I'd sold the business, which I did have staff, but they were staff. You know, doing what I did. So I did buy a franchise just because I thought, oh, that'll be quite good, because they'll have done all the stuff, you know, franchise,
they're all set up, and
they're all set up, and there'll be a team, and there'll be people doing exactly what I'm doing, and that'll be lovely. And actually I did have it for about 5 years, the franchise. And it was kind of just like my holding pattern.
Yes.
It was just very easy.
It's what you knew.
What I knew.
Familiar. Yeah.
Didn't have to work too hard. Picked up lots of one-to-one mentoring clients out of it. So it just kind of allowed me to heal mentally and physically, because I was on antidepressants after my partner died. When I hit the wall that time, there was no way I was going to get out of it without something other than, you know, counselling just wasn't going to be enough for me.
Yeah.
I was on the antidepressants, and I kind of, you know, no shame in it. You can be on them for life, but I kind of knew that I wanted to get to a point where I could go, actually, I don't need the crutch anymore.
Yeah.
In order to do that, I needed to be in a business or doing something that didn't take too much of my brain power.
Yeah.
It took enough, but it wasn't all consuming. It gave me time to, I'll tell you what, it gave me time to do things that brought me joy. You know, like I joined a choir.
Yeah.
So I would go singing every week.
Yeah.
And you can't be sad when you're singing.
No, you can't.
No, unless you're singing a really sad song.
Yeah,
Like,
or you could be angry if you're singing an angry song.
yeah.
Yeah.
Occasionally there'd be a song that would catch me because
Yeah.
it's one of his favorite songs. Or I mean, I can't ever sing Something Inside So Strong. Can't get past the first line of that. That just floors me. But you know, it gave me the opportunity to do the nice stuff.
Yeah.
And get myself back to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Find you again.
Find me again, not this person who was widow, coma survivor, carer, all those things.
Yeah.
It gave me an opportunity to find me again. So yeah, that was about 5 years of doing that. And then I let that go just like during COVID, really, because it didn't align with me anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we change, you know, that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know, fantastic. I love that. So then you moved into life architect after that?
Life design. Yeah. So basically, I carried on mentoring, and I normally just work with 4 or 5 one-to-one clients, because when I work with you, I work with you.
Yeah.
Which sounds a bit ridiculous, but I get really down and dirty with you, not in a bad way, but I go into all the nuts and bolts of your life and your business. I work alongside you. I don't set you a task and then leave you to do it. There's a lot of accountability with me, so I'll be.
That's what people need. Yeah, yeah.
Have you done that? So as part of that, I just started weaving. I read a lot about life architecture and life design. There's a book by a guy called Bill Burnett who said basically we all need to think like a designer, like a product designer. And if we start doing that and we put those principles to our life, that's how we would do it. So, and then I just started weaving it into my business mentorship. So I'd be talking about the business, but then I'd be saying, well, how's this working with your life? And, you know, is it aligned, or is there a big disconnect? And it was never aligned, never aligned. It was always the tail wagging the dog, not the dog wagging the tail. So that's really where that's done. And so now I have a community on Facebook, which is called Rich Beyond Money, because I believe we can all be rich beyond money. I'm very anti the 6-7 figure hustle culture, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, it's like nobody has the right to tell you what a successful business looks like.
Yeah.
Success is what success looks like to you. So for some people, they won't feel successful unless they're turning over $1 million, or not turning over. Turnover is vanity, it's profit is sanity. But you know, so they won't feel successful if they're not netting 10 grand a month into their bank account. And yet other people will go, you know what, I only need 2 grand a month, that's success to me. So nobody has the right to tell you whether you have a successful business.
I love that. Yeah.
And tell you that you have to be chasing 6 or 7 figures. So I kind of kick against that a lot. I probably get a few enemies about it as well, but that's how it is. And the people in my community are all heart-led female entrepreneurs who know what success looks like to them, and you know what makes them feel rich beyond earning the money. So
I love that. Absolutely love that. Now, I know we spoke earlier as well, you have got something new coming in the pipeline. We can't give too many details away.
No, I think it's safe to say that I don't think many of us have a plan B, because nobody expects the worst to happen.
No.
So I was talking to a friend of mine actually a couple of years ago, and we were just talking about, it was not long after I wrote the blog about what happened. And she said, what's really weird about you, Nikki, or funny, I don't think it's funny or weird really. She said, but if they made a film of the last 12 years of your life, they would go, that was a really good film, but it wouldn't happen in real life.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, you know, that's like, oh my God, that wouldn't happen in real life, but actually it does. And I think we get up and we go along in our little world, don't we? And we always, you know, think it's not going to happen. And I hope it doesn't happen. I hope it doesn't happen to any of you. But I mean, last year, my financial advisor was on holiday in Ibiza, and he caught his flip-flop on a step. He fell backwards and he was killed instantly.
Oh, God.
He banged his head and he was killed instantly.
Yeah.
Thought that was going to happen.
No.
it happens. There's all these things that happen and we are not prepared for it. And that's exactly what happened when I was in the coma. My family life imploded, as did, I had an online shop at the same time, and that imploded because nobody knows how Nikki runs the house or how she runs her life. So my sister-in-law, my partner's older sister, moved in 4 days after I went into the coma because he wasn't coping. So she moved in to be me. But the door, about 10 days later, somebody came to the door and it was my son's best friend's mum saying he hasn't had his school dinners because Nikki hasn't topped up his finger because his school had the biometric cashless catering system.
Yeah.
You know, well, Nikki went into a coma at half term when she pays football club, dance club, lunches, whatever it is that needed, nothing was done. None of these things were paid, didn't happen. So my son didn't get his school, well, he did get school dinners because his friend paid for them. Yeah. But if his friend hadn't paid for them, he wouldn't have got them. And there's all that stuff that, whether you're single, just a couple, you've got a family, the stuff that you do on a daily basis, that if you were to fall over, whether it's for a week, a month, 6 months, a year, or God forbid, permanently, it's not going to carry on.
No.
And I found out some really horrible statistics, like 1 in 4 children will lose a parent before the age of 18.
Wow, is it that high?
1 in 4 children will lose a parent before the age of 18. So when you take all that information and you think, right, okay, and you'll see there's all these, let's plan for my end of my life. You know, this is where I'm going to be buried and these are my wishes and this is what my bank accounts are. But where is the dog's on a special diet and you can only get it from the vet? It's not written down anywhere.
No.
So I have created something which is going to cover all that off for everybody. It's going to go live, hopefully by the 1st of March. It's just been delayed because I had some more health issues last year. But it's going to go live, and I've done it because I want something good to have come out of what happened to me, and I want to pay it forward. So for every purchase of this product, £10 will be donated to a charity that help people with loss.
That's incredible. And I love how your mind works, because only somebody that's been through something like you would know that you need like this instruction book.
Yeah. And you know, people, and I think it's going to be interesting because a lot of people, if people know someone who's been through it, they will absolutely want it.
Yeah.
People that don't will have to get with the program and understand they do need it. But the fact that this is also going to help people less fortunate. So the sort of charities that I'm looking to support are charities that help children who've lost parents, parents that have lost children, people who've lost people to suicide, even domestic violence, because if you're a victim of domestic abuse, you flee your home, you lose everything overnight.
Yeah.
If mum's injured and has to go into hospital and the kids go into care, if the fact that your son, who's 5, doesn't like labels in his t-shirt is in the manual, at least there's that continuity for them. And, you know, they won't go to bed without Noddy, if that's the case, whatever it is, that's written down. So there is at least some kind of consistency through everybody's life. So any charity that supports people with loss, hospices, yes, because there is that end of life planning, not national charities because they get all the support anyway. I'm looking for the micro charities, the ones that aren't even qualifying for children in need because they've not been established for 5 years. So something like that. That's who I want the money to go to. And as you purchase this item, if you haven't come via charities link, the funds will just go into a pot, and then every quarter we will distribute it amongst all the charities that we're working with. So it will be a fair split. And if you know a charity that you want to nominate, there will be an opportunity to say, well, actually, this charity would benefit from this, so can we nominate them? And we will reach out to the charity and invite them to become part of the big thing that we're doing.
I love that, because that's what you needed back then.
Absolutely. And I didn't have it.
And do you know what? It's an amazing idea, absolutely cracking idea. That's what you needed, and now you're making it. I absolutely love that.
And it took me 10 years to come up with it, because me being me, you know, I kept saying to people, yeah, but why didn't I die? And they were like, because you've got 2 kids. That should be enough. That's why you didn't die, because you've got 2 kids. I was like, no, that's not enough. That's not enough. There's got to be a bigger reason than because you've got 2 children.
Yeah.
And but it took me a long time to come up with it, because I was so, you know, dealing with everything else.
I was about to say, you've got everything going on.
Didn't have that clarity of thought.
Yeah.
And then I just sat there one day and went, oh God, you know, I know what it was. It's because I don't want any other little boy not to have his school dinners.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love it. So, two last questions actually. I always ask this question.
Too. Can't stop.
Yeah, I always ask this question and people always panic. Nikki, tell me 3 good things about yourself.
I'm resilient.
You are, without a shadow of a doubt.
Resilient. I have empathy in spades.
Yeah.
And if you're my best friend, I'll help you bury the body.
You're my best friend, so that's I love that. That's absolutely amazing. So tell me about your most ideal client, where they can find you and why they should work with you.
So my perfect fit is a entrepreneur, solo entrepreneur, who has got it all, got everything they think, but they wake up every day and they are overwhelmed, tired, exhausted. And the other thing is, what I do a lot of is I work on pricing strategy. So I'm all about working smarter, not harder. One of my most recent clients has gone from seeing 50 clients a month at 50 quid an hour to 10, and we've got packages now at £2,500.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of strategy around the business, like what the business is, what the transformation is you're giving, and can we make it more profitable and work less hours for more money.
Yeah.
So I work around that kind of thing as well. So it's an entrepreneur who's overwhelmed, stressed out, doesn't wake up in the morning full of joy, and is just a little bit world weary, you know.
Yeah.
No, they love their business really, and they want it to work. They're just a bit stuck, and they're on that hamster wheel.
Yeah.
They get off that wheel and they want to take back control.
Yeah.
So that's my ideal client. I call it perfect fit. I mean, my website's just about to have a revamp, but it's nikkistock.com.
Yeah. And
there will be a link to the legacy project on there in the next couple of days, because I've got a couple of podcasts going out where people are mentioning it. So I need to get something on there, even not to mention, so you register for when it comes out that you've got it. So yeah.
I absolutely love that.
And you can find me on Facebook, Nikki Stock. You'll know because it's got Life Architect on the banner. And if there's any women listening that want to come into my community, you know, they're just so lovely. They're just not, you know, I just attract really nice people in that group. I
think groups are good as well, because it's a group of people on a similar journey to improve their lives.
Yeah.
So it's nice to bounce off each other, because sometimes it can feel a bit lonely, can't it?
Well, what I do in my group, and this is open to everybody, is twice a month I have this thing called net mastering, and it's a hybrid of networking and a mastermind. So you come to the group, and then you'll go into a little breakout room with 3 other people, and you each have 15 minutes each to bring your problem, your idea, whatever it is going on, either with your life and business, to the group. And the other 3 people, 3 more pairs of eyes, will have a look at it and go, oh, actually, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Last week, we created 2 new businesses. Somebody bought a new domain name, and someone decided to burn a quarter of their business because it wasn't serving them anymore. We did all that in an hour and a half.
Oh, I love that. It's a
And
great,
that's
done, right?
Yeah, and it's that thing about having a community who get it, who understand exactly where you are, and also because it's a safe space, what goes on in that room stays in that room, so you can be really raw and real. Yeah. And there's no fake it till you make it in that group. It is honest.
I love that. So what's that group called?
Rich Beyond Money.
And that's on Facebook.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I love that. Well, I just need to say you are truly inspiring, my lovely.
Thank you.
Like I say, when I read your story, I was like, oh my goodness, I need to get you on. So thank you for reaching out to me. You've been absolutely amazing. Is there anything else you want to add before we go?
No, I just think, just check in with yourself. And if you are at that point and you're like, do you know what, this is not working for me.
Needs a different approach.
Something needs to give. Investigate what needs to give and make the change, because as I like to say, and it's a bit depressing, but you are a long time looking at the lid.
Very true. And we don't know what's around the corner as well.
No.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute honour to have you on the show. So take care, my lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.